week's episode of Ushio and Tora. Ushio and Tora are beginning their long journey to find out the secrets behind Ushio's mother, and they're gonna do battle with a massive sky demon on an airplane. They should have called in William Shatner, because there's something on the wing. Something. A very simple, a very heartwarming, a very badass episode of Ushio and Tora. If you guys have been watching this series from the beginning, you'll know that there's this one big, nasty green demon with a big smile on his face who appears in the intro of the show. He makes his formal appearance in this week's episode, and he's a massive sky yokai known as the Fusuma. It's this giant green humanoid demon which can actually extend and contort its arms and legs, and it attacks airplanes trying to destroy them and eat anything that it can find on board. And there's two different stories going on this week. We have Ushio and Tora who are traveling on the plane, and they're also involved with these other new characters who are introduced this week. There's this young girl who goes by the name of Yu, whose father just died in this massive plane accident, and this plane was actually attacked by this demon known as the Fusuma, but she's actually blaming this one jet pilot who she thinks is actually responsible for her father's death. It's not until the end of this week's episode that she actually realizes the truth, and that it was actually this giant demon which caused all of this destruction. While the action in this week's episode I honestly thought was pretty awesome, one of my favorite things about this week's episode was just how excited Tora was to actually get on an airplane. Just seeing his reactions to the things that go on in modern society is one of the best things about his character, because he's a very creepy looking character, but he has a lot of childlike wonder as well, especially when they're actually taking off on the airplane for the first time. He doesn't strap himself in, he doesn't put in a seatbelt, he just ends up flying to the back of the cab as it's taking off and smacking into the faces of multiple passengers. It makes for a lot of good laughs, and by the end of this episode, just about everybody on the airplane has seen that demons exist, Tora is around, and there's a kid who can transform into a half-human, half-beast creature with the power of a spear of death. But let's talk about the demon in this week's episode. It is known as the Fusuma. This thing's got a really great design. It also just happens to be one of the most nightmare-fueled inducing creatures that I've seen from the entire series. It has got this really disturbing smile, it's all completely green, and it can actually morph its arms and legs into these tentacles, which it actually uses to wrap around the entire airplane, and basically blind the pilots, attack the people, and basically just bring the whole thing down. It's like a super gremlin. It's also apparently a pretty well-known demon because Tora is actually familiar with the Fusuma and has apparently battled it in the past. In fact, when they actually meet each other, the Fusuma even calls Tora Nagatobi Maru, which is his original name. And that's when they start to battle. And what I really loved about this is that we've already known that Tora had lightning abilities, but apparently he can breathe fire as well. And fire is the ultimate weakness of the Fusuma. So what do? Well, they create this weird, crazy plan where Tora is literally going to have his tail sort of like morph its way through the top of the airplane, kind of like it's like a ghost going through a wall, and he's actually going to lead the Fusuma over to him so that he can push him against the top of the plane, so that this will give Ushio a chance to actually stab it with the beast spear. This ends up working and even gets a little bit of help from that one girl, Yu, but this is all just the beginning part of their plan. Eventually, Ushio and Tora make their way to the top of the airplane while it's flying in mid-air, and they decide to cut off the limbs of the Fusuma, who ends up flying and floating up into the air before it is hit and bombarded with missiles from these jets, which has been called about the accident that's going on the plane. It's really ridiculous and over the top, and just so insane and ridiculous it makes no sense, but it's just so much fun. This show is freaking so much fun to watch. I also really love the fact that when the Fusuma is actually being defeated, he mentions that since the Beast Spear has been removed, that is going to mean the arrival of the Hakumen no Mono, which apparently is the big bad or villain of the series. It's the second episode in which it's been mentioned, and the Fusuma, as powerful and demonic as it was, doesn't even want to run into the Hakumen no Mono, so it's actually glad that it got killed at that moment. It's a really creepy scene, and it's all ended with a little more tension when, as they're trying to actually land the plane, the back legs or the wheels are not actually working anymore, and Ushio does this amazing trick where he uses a little bit of reverse psychology on Tora and actually has him lift the plane Superman style, and they actually land with him like skidding across the entire runway. Of course, he doesn't want to have to talk to any of the agents after this big crash goes down, so both Ushio and Tora leave. They say their goodbyes to their brand new friends as they continue their journey to find out more about Ushio's mother. So what's the rundown? down on this week's episode of Ushio and Tora. We're back to the Monster of the Week style storytelling, but I really liked this one. I just love the entire uniqueness of it, especially because I never even imagined that we were actually going to see that one big demon that was in the intro of the show, the big nasty green one, and it really paid off. It was a really interesting demon. It had a really creepy design, and just the way it looked when it was contorting and wrapping around the plane was really freaking terrifying and added a lot of tension to this week's episode. There's also just a lot of really great action and a lot of great humor, mostly, of course, again from Tora, who just continues to be one of the most expressive anime characters that I have ever seen, and definitely my favorite character from the series thus far. The only thing that was a little cheesy about this week's episode is how there's this other subplot with this little girl who just lost her father, and you can totally tell where this is going. You know that she's going to make up with this one guy that she feels is actually the one who killed her father, and that Ushio and Tora are the ones who are going to do it. It's a little cliche, but then again, this is the type of series that can get away with that, and we have to remember again that this is an anime which is based on a manga from the 90s series, and it totally is just carrying that spirit with it throughout the entire thing. Otherwise, just the action was over the top and ridiculous in this episode, especially towards the end when they're actually fighting on top of the plane and they cut off its limbs, and then the frickin' Team Star Fox and the frickin' SWAT cats come in and just frickin' blow up the demon. It's really funny and crazy, and that's just, again, one of the other reasons why I'm really enjoying Ushio and Tora so much, is because it's just fun. It just reminds me of watching, like, a badass Saturday morning cartoon, but it's an anime, and I totally dig everything about it. This is just sort of a time capsule of a series, which, if you're even remotely interested in old school manga or anime, you've got to check out Ushio and Tora. It is a barrel of laughs, it's got a lot of badass action, and it's got some really enduring characters. It's not reinventing the wheel, it's not breaking the mold in any way, but it's doing a really great job with this adaptation, and if anything, I can just say it's entertaining as hell. So I loved this episode. It wasn't perfect, it was a little cheesy at moments, but I still think it was another high-quality episode of Ushio and Tora, so I'm going to give this week's episode a 4 out of 5. Check it out, Ushio and Tora fans, whether you've read the manga series or you're just jumping on the anime, check out this week's episode. You might see something you like. So I really liked this episode a lot, but I want to hear from you guys. What did you think about this week's episode of Ushio and Tora as they were battling against the evil sky demonic yokai, the Fusuma? What's the real deal with the Hakumen no Mono? And what do you want to see from the rest of the Ushio and Tora anime series? Please tell me in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching my review. Make sure to like it and share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel. That way you can see all of our latest anime and manga reviews and our weekly podcast show, which you can also download for free at iTunes and at Rogue Intel. You should definitely check that out. But as always, the best way to support our channel is to watch the videos, comment on them, and to share them with your friends. So thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.